Hello, good morning to all of you to the second edition of APAC Global Water Management Conclave. We are glad that Ministry of Jal Shakti, National Water Mission Namami Gange has joined us as the host partner for this prestigious second conclave of APAC Virtual Global Water Management Conclave. And like in the second edition also we'll have important stakeholders from the water ecosystem from India and various parts of the world. Without taking much time, let me introduce to all of you. We have the honor of having with us UP Singh, Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India. Is also the Secretary of Sanitation and Drinking Water, Government of India. Thank you for joining us, UP Singh. We have been joined by a special guest from US, Eleanor, Chief Executive Officer, Water for People, one of the leading think tanks, not-for-profit organization working in the sustainable water and sanitation sector, especially keeping in mind the community participation. Thanks, Eleanor, for joining us from US.
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
We have been also joined by Dr. Vishwadip Ghosh, Country Director, India, Water for People. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ghosh. We're also joined by Mr. V.R. Raman, Head Policy, WaterAid India. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Raman. I'm also joined by my colleague, Sanghamitra Mohanty, co-founder, APAC Digital News Network. Thanks for joining us, Sanghamitra. With this, let me take this opportunity to give a small overview about this event. In the month of July, we did the first edition of Global Water Management Conclave, in which we saw presence of 30 plus speakers, 10 plus policy makers from various parts of India, 10 plus global thought leaders, and also water solution providers who joined parts of the world as well. And it saw huge participation of delegates, and it was also broadcasted live on Facebook through Ministry of Jal Shakti and APAC Facebook page. Taking cue from the success of the first edition in July 2020, we decided to organize a second edition today, that is 15th of December 2020. And we are grateful that Minister of Jal Shakti has given his consent to be the host partner for the first. Let us start the inaugural session. The theme of the inaugural session is effective ways of water management through innovation, policy, implementation, and international collaboration. And who else can talk about this subject than Shri UP Singh, Secretary, Minister of Jal Shakti, Government of India. Shri UP Singh, your thoughts on the theme of the inaugural effective ways of water management through innovation, policy, implementation, and international collaboration. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning or the good evening, as the case may be, because people have joined from different parts of the world. So, first of all, thank you, APAC and all the organizers for organizing this very important conclave. Usually, when I have to speak on water, I speak for pretty long, but today I would restrict myself at 10 o'clock because I have given commitment to CII that I would be speaking to them at about 10:20 or so. So I'll just take about 10 minutes time. All those people who have joined right now, I need not tell them the importance of water. Everybody knows. And everybody talks about impending water crisis. Actually, some people keep saying how per capita availability of water has been going down, especially in India, and how climate change is impacting the rainfall pattern, because rainfall pattern is becoming more and more skewed. India otherwise is known for a huge temporal and spatial variability of rainfall, which is main source of water in India. While we are talking of all this, I always feel that there are certain things for which if we can manage that, then we don't really need to bother as much as we are talking right now, actually, because India still gets about 1,000 millimeter of rainfall on an average. If we can kind of conserve this water, if we can store this water and use them judiciously, then there should be no need that we should face the kind of water crisis which everybody is talking of. Now, whenever I talk of water, there are quite a few things. There are certain things fall in the policy domains. For example, let's say the one of the policy, I would say that important policy decision which this government took was basically integrating water-related functions. Now there is a Ministry of Jal Shakti. Not many people know what is Ministry of Jal Shakti, because earlier there used to be Ministry of Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation, and then Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. They have been merged into it, and maybe this is the first phase of integration. So this is one policy actually. Similarly, we are working out on new water policy actually, which will also take into account the kind of impact that which the climate change will have. We also need to work on some other policies actually, whether it is a policy relating to maybe water pricing, or whether it's policy related to free electricity, or whether it's a policy related to procurement, because a lot of people feel that it is the procurement policy which is giving some kind of a perverse incentive for growing a very water intensive crops actually. So there is a lot which needs to be done on policy. But apart from that, there are quite a few things which needs to be done in my opinion. One is that, as our Honorable Prime Minister keeps talking all the time, that Jal Andolan should be Jan Andolan actually. The movement for the water should be basically a people's movement actually. And we have done quite a few things, starting from Jal Shakti Abhiyan last year to Catch the Rain campaign this year, to quite a few other things which we have done actually. I'm sure that quite a few speakers I find today, they would be talking of the kind of initiatives they have taken in different states and in different districts actually, because I find some of the speakers who have with whom I had held dialogues from time to time, they all would be here and talking about that actually. And today we find that number of states, almost every state has some or the other what should I say, innovation to show actually, whether it is a Jal Jeevan Haryali mission of Bihar, or whether it's a Mukhyamantri Jal Swavlamban Abhiyan of Rajasthan, or whether it's a Sujlam Suflam Abhiyan of Gujarat. So every state has done. Similarly, I find that every district almost have their, apart from implementing the central government and state government programs, every district has started something good actually. And two things which come out very well. One is that the young officers who are manning these districts, I have been interacting with them every Saturday actually, and I find that most of them, they have done two things actually. They have started doing what is called convergence. And that is why there is no dearth of fund in most of the districts, because they are converging different schemes and funds from different sources. And the other very important aspect has been the people's involvement actually. So the community involvement again has been something which was, I would say, to some extent lacking in the government actually. In fact, for the first time, we have a scheme called Atal Bhujal Yojana, where basically we are talking of participatory groundwater management. Usually water management was always supposed to be something which is for the kind of engineers doing actually. But water management today, because it's not so much water resource development, it is more of a water resource management actually. And management is a multidisciplinary thing. And without people's involvement, it would be very difficult to manage. So one good thing is that that's another good thing which is happening today. And the another very important thing which is happening today is that now emphasis is shifting. No doubt both supply side and demand side management is concerned, but demand side management is getting some priority actually. We have all along talked of supply side management, and we have talked of all supply side management also only through large dams actually. So it is not necessary that entire supply side management should be managed only by large dams. It could be millions and millions of smaller structures which are more important actually. So when I hear these days some young collectors talking that in our district became first district which has done 1 lakh farm ponds, or someone says that I have rejuvenated all water bodies in the district, I think that's the way to go. India had a very glorious tradition of conserving water. All our step wells today, if you see, they are testimony to the fact that we were a very good, even in those days, in conserving our water. This Tanka system which you find in Rajasthan, for example, people have been managing with so less rainfall actually. So if we take the lessons from the past and some of the good practices which we had in the past, there is no reason that we would really face the kind of water scarcity or the water crisis which we are people talking of. So apart from supply side management, emphasis on small. I feel small is beautiful. All our cities, whether it's a Delhi, whether it's a Chennai, whether it's a Bangalore, Bangalore was called the city of lakes. What has happened that over a period of time we have allowed those water bodies to somehow deteriorate actually. And today you know the consequences. In fact, these days we find a number of instances of urban flooding. Why does urban flooding take place? It's not only because of the weird distribution of rainfall. It's primarily because we do not allow water to go to any water bodies actually. We have the water bodies has got silted up. They are today being used as a receptacle for solid and liquid waste. The channels which was taking water to those water bodies, we have blocked all of them. Now, so if we can rejuvenate, whether it's an urban area or the rural area, if we can rejuvenate all water bodies, so that's what I keep talking. People like Souvik and Sanghamitra keep listening to me every week actually. So for them it would not be something new, but I learned from someone called 5 hours of water actually. And I keep, whenever I have to talk, I talk about 5 hours of water. The 3 hours everybody knows that reduce, recycle and reuse. Everybody talks of recycle, reuse and reduce, and all that is good. In fact, we must reduce the consumption and we must reuse and recycle the water. But the 4th and 5th hours are no important. The 4th hour is recharge. In India, there is a huge scope for recharging groundwater actually. And not many people understand the importance of groundwater, unfortunately. It's a groundwater which basically it's not only the canals and dams which have brought the green revolution to India and the self-sufficiency in food grains. A contribution of groundwater, whether it is for the production of food grains or whether it's a drinking water needs or whether industrial needs, is huge actually. Unfortunately, we have been in certain parts of the country, we have been doing a very unsustained mining or extraction of groundwater actually. And so groundwater must receive proper attention, and for that we have to recharge. And there is a huge scope for recharging. It is not only the ponds and tanks and all. Everywhere, whether it's your rooftop or whether it's an open field or whether it's a stadium or whether it's an airport or whether it's a cantonment area, wherever you go, wherever open space is there, there is a scope for a groundwater recharge. So the 4th hour is a very important call, recharge. But then I come finally to the 5th hour. The 5th hour is very important, and that is respect. We must respect for water. Every country which has managed water, I was reading recently a book about on how Israel has managed its water actually. And the first few pages doesn't talk about all the technology and micro irrigation or the huge across country pipeline, or it talks of how they are respecting water. Every school, there is no school perhaps where there is not there would be a slogan or something relating to water actually. And water was being respected in India also. Whether you go to our Vedas, Purans, all our rituals, everywhere we had a huge respect for water. Somewhere down the line we have lost that respect for water actually. So in my opinion, we must start respecting water, because water is a precious resource. Everybody says, we keep saying that you cannot imagine a life without water on this earth. But still, the kind of respect which water should get, once we start respecting, once we start value, I am talking of, everybody talks of price of water, pricing of water would come later, measurement of water could become later. I say first let us start respecting the water actually. There are, of course, a lot other things which are needed as far as management of water in India is concerned, because I always say that our inefficiency is our strength. We are utilizing much more water, whether it's agriculture, whether it's an industry, whether it's a municipal water supply, we waste a lot of water. So if we become more efficient in use of water, whether it's by policy, whether it's by technology, whether it's by a proper involvement of the people, then there is no reason why India's water security cannot be ensured. So, friends, I just gave some of my stray thoughts, not confining basically, because what I do is generally a topic is given, but it becomes very difficult for me to confine to the topic. So I just thought that few things I would touch in the limited time which I wanted to take right now. I would sign off here. I wish this workshop all the best. I find that there are very good speakers lined up during the day. A lot of state perspective, a lot of perspective from the districts would be there. So I wish this conclave all the best. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to stay back with you. So I will have to say goodbye. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sri UP Singh. Sir, before you leave, a small request to you that I'll come to what you have said. Just before you leave, let me inform you that Eleanor has joined us from US for the inaugural, and so we especially thank to her. And before you leave, I'll just take 30 seconds of yours to inform you that we'll be organizing the third edition of APAC Global Water Management Conclave in the month of February, most probably between 10 to 12 of February 2021. And in all probability, Embassy of Netherlands and their digital water mission will be joining us as a country partner for the third edition. So, sir, before you leave, if you can just say 30 seconds a minute, inviting or requesting more stakeholders to join
You
us
have
for the third
already
edition as well.
done that. I am just endorsing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was Sri UP Singh, Honorable Secretary Minister of Jal Shakti Government of India, giving the keynote address and officially inaugurating the second edition of APEC Global Water Management Conclave. And he talked about a very important aspect of water management in a country like India. Climate change is impacting the rainfall. But the most striking point, which he has said that India receives almost 1,000 millimeter of rainfall on average. That is enough to meet the demand of country like India. But unfortunately, there are problems, and all comes to the management of water. And he also spoke about the importance of groundwater management to highlight the importance of using technology innovation for groundwater management, a sustainable use of water, and effective optimized use of water resources. That is the crux of what Mr. UP Singh has said. And before I move on to the next speaker, let me also inform to all of you that he spoke about Honorable Prime Minister vision that making the Jal Andolan a Jan Andolan. That is in Hindi. That means making water transformation a people's movement, and for that we need community participation. And that is very important part of making a efficient water management ecosystem to make the water movement a people's movement, and community participation is one of the important aspects of that. And taking you that, let me introduce to all of you Eleanor, Chief Executive Officer, Water for People. It's a global not-for-profit organization working on sustainable water and sanitation field, especially for communities, reaching out to the communities. That's why I talked about the last part of what UP Singh has said, that's making the water transformation, water revolution a people's movement, and there comes the role of community participation. With this, I request Eleanor to give her perspective on how her organization or the countries can collaborate together to build up an effective water management ecosystem. Over to you, Eleanor. Thanks for joining us from US.
Thank you so much, Souvik, and thank you to APAC for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here tonight for me, this morning for you. And I enjoyed the talk we just listened to at the keynote address from the Secretary, specifically on the water resources management. Really interesting. I didn't know there was so much rainfall in India. And yeah, it'd be great to capture that and to be able to reallocate that across the country to have more water supply for the country. I'm going to show a few slides, but I first wanted to just touch on water for people and how we work. We work globally, but in India as well. We do work on water resources management because that is, if we don't have the water and we're putting in pipes and networks, they're not really happy without water. So water resources management is a big part of our work, as well as infrastructure and also really the capacity building in the communities. The Jabandhus in India specifically, the water service providers and the water service authorities. So we're really enablers, and we do a lot of capacity building to bring up the systems for the authorities and the providers so that everyone has good quality services. We have tons of data. We work a lot with evidence. We have A lot of years of experience. We've been in India about 20 years, and we work with government mostly, and then private sector and partnerships where needed. So now we're in a scaling mode where we're doing more and more replication of our work. So let me show you a little bit about how it works at Water for People. Let's see if I can find, every sharing is different, of course. Okay, I think I'm in the right place. So can you see my screen?
It's visible, Eleanor, it's visible, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk about how Water for People works, why we're unique, where we work, and then a bit about our India program, and a bit where we're going for what we call Destination 2030, our vision for the decade. So really, we're all about social progress. We want to lift up the communities where we work, so better health, access to education, and better ability to work, and then also water. We call our impact model Everyone Forever. So that's about getting everyone water access and having those services last forever. We always partner with government and co-finance the infrastructure and really build the capacity of the communities where we work. So I'll show you more in detail how that all comes together. And our vision is that we really envision a world where everyone has access to reliable and safe drinking water and sanitation. So that is where we'll, wakes us up every day, gets us out of bed. So Everyone Forever, again, is about everyone has access, but ensuring that the communities have service authorities and service providers to keep the water flowing forever. So when we look in depth in our impact model, Everyone Forever, obviously for water services, government is our most important partner. And then we also work with the communities. And in India, it's mostly at the GP level, the district levels, and work with community leaders to figure out what the needs are. And each community is different. We bring in technical resources. We have excellent world-class engineers and planners and water resources managers and community builders. And then we bring in market forces to help move things along and create the demand. So this is especially for sanitation. We have a lot of point of purchase. For example, we've worked on that in India quite a bit on the sanitation side. So really having that help get that momentum going for people to demand services, both in water and sanitation. So when we talk about everyone, we mean every family, clinic, and school. Those are our constituents. And when we're working on Forever, this is really about working with the district until we know that the service authority can manage the system themselves. Then we start stepping back, and then we exit out, still monitoring that level of service. But there's a point where Water for People can move on to another district and continue to work because the districts are now able to continue the service without us. So that's how we enable those changes. We're not a direct service provider ourselves. We have 4 distinct steps to the model for Everyone Forever. So in the beginning, it's about building everyone, figuring out who needs services, and then start building those skills for the operation and maintenance. Again, every household, family, and school, every community, household, community, schools, and clinics. These are specific milestones that we reach in our districts. And then when we get to the Forever part, that's in a way a lot harder because it's about behavior change and skills and really having those service providers, service authority, and the water resources management in place. And then we get into the yellow phase, oversight only, where we just are watching, but we're not actually doing, and then we can exit. So I'll show you some what those details look like. So when we measure, we have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of evidence, a lot of monitoring and evaluation of our data. So we monitor the service levels, sustainability, and in the sanitation side, that market demand for products and customer satisfaction. So when we do our annual monitoring, which we didn't do this year, or 1 year we haven't done it because of COVID, but this is a big deal for us to get this data, and we really want to see what on the access side. So for everyone, it's about quality, quantity, and the reliability of the systems, and the condition of the infrastructure, and then is it proved or high quality service. So forever, we have a different checklist. There are 8 different criteria. The first 4 you see on the left are about the service authority. What's the structure of the authority? Is there proper financing for the capital phase? Are the right management in place, people and structure? And is there the service authority bringing in the right financing for the long term? And then on the service provider, it's also the structure. This is more on operation and maintenance. Are people paying for their services? Are they paying for their water? And is the system being operated and maintained properly? And then lastly, water resources management. So we have this big model, lots of data. It comes down every year to green, yellow, light red, dark red. And I specifically wanted to mention the water resources, which is the last column, because we've been heard about that today from the secretary. So the water resources metrics are really about knowing the water source inventory. So this was interesting hearing about the groundwater sources and the recharge. And then is there a water resources management plan? So like if we're using groundwater, is the water being taken care of as a recharge, or are we just dropping the aquifer? If we're extracting groundwater, is there compliance with the abstraction rights? What is the water quality at the source? And who's in charge? Is there a regional or district natural resource officer? So if you can get all those, you've got a green in your water resources management. Now, stepping back a bit, water for people, of course, we talked about India, and then we also work in 3 countries in Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, and Malawi, and 5 in Latin America. So we have 3 different regions. In India specifically, we're working with 1.5 million people, and you can see the states we're working in. And then we're working with, that's for the Everyone Forever model that I described. And then when we're looking at safe and locally sustained drinking water services and water security specifically, it's 14 million people. So we're looking, really enabling the services and the behavior change, especially in sanitation. Market system development, as I mentioned, for the point of purchase, latrine building, fecal sludge management. And then we have quite a few cross-cutting themes. So we really like innovation. We're technically based, so we like to promote that and look at that. Behavior change communication is a big part of what we do, institution building, gender social inclusion, and then the monitoring in a decentralized way. So that is part of our India program. And then just wrapping up my presentation here is thinking about the future. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are really working on our Vision 2030. We call it our Destination 2030. And this is our passionate pursuit of sustainable water, sanitation, and hygiene services for all. So what we've done here developing this vision is we want to keep doing what we're doing and what we've learned through our failures, plenty of those, and successes, replicate it and scale to other new countries and new districts. And you can see the SDG circle here. Of course, SDG 6 is what we really focus on, clean water and sanitation. But we also touch on health and education with clinics and schools, gender equality, economic development through jobs and sanitation, but also on the water side. Infrastructure, sustainable communities, the climate is a big deal in all our countries. Just with the climate, we're calling it the climate emergency, things changing so much. And then lastly, partnerships. We have lots of partnerships, all different types of partnerships. So we really touch on all the SDGs, but we're highlighting these for the decade. And our journey to scale is really focused on a 10x mindset. So expansive mindset. We're looking at 12 million people with the Everyone Forever model, getting full access and sustainable services. When we go up to the national level, 200 million people. India, of course, skews all this because we're so big, but we still want to focus on the national level, and that's about system strengthening. And then lastly, another 10x up to the global level, and that's everyone who's left in the world who doesn't have services today, 2 billion people, really influencing through global organizations like Sanitation and Water for All, UNICEF, UN Water, and those that have a global remit and working through those. And then again, for the decade, really focusing on our core skills, which are clean water, safe sanitation, health and hygiene. And then lasting change, that's really about the systems change and having these behavior change last. And that's the end of my presentation. So thank you for this invitation and being with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Eleanor, for giving an insightful presentation. It was short, crisp, and to the point. And you talked about building everyone forever. And you talked about in your presentation how collecting data is important for measuring the success metrics in different parts of the world. You're working in South American countries, in Africa, in India, usually. Especially I was seeing that map where you're working in India, in the eastern part, northeast, and some part of the Western India, where you talk about you're working closely to impact the sustainable sanitation behavioral change. That's very important for a country like India, that we change the mindset and we tell people the importance of hygiene, sanitation, and the behavioral change has to be done. I'm glad that Water for People is doing that successfully. And you also talked about Sustainable Development Goal 2030, where the mantra is, or the aim is, ensuring sustainable water and sustainable sanitation and hygiene for all. And I'm sure organizations like yours and various governments can collaborate together to reach that goal of SDG to 2030. And as you have said, that 10x, I really like that slide when you talked about going from 20 billion to 2 billion people. And I think that will have an impact to a society at a large. I have a question for you before I move on to the next speaker. We know about the pandemic we're all going through globally. We're living in a new normal. What are the opportunities you see globally out of this pandemic to address the challenges of the water sector? Are there new opportunities, new avenues also? We know about the challenges, but what about the opportunities you see?
Yes, great question, and definitely there are opportunities. What we've experienced is that all of a sudden the world's paying attention to hand washing and hygiene, right? We could never get in the news cycle because no one wanted to hear about hand washing and hygiene and water and sanitation. But now people do, because people are dying, and it's so important to life. So we've seen a real appreciation, understanding of our work, interest in the work that we do, and then a much closer unification with health. For example, we often work with the Ministry of Water, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Infrastructure, but we don't too often work with the Ministry of Health, maybe doing clinics and a Ministry of Education doing schools. But now, and it was like immediately helping with distribution of PPE, getting hand washing stations set, helping people understand the importance, because the water sellers are the front lines of the communities. So really much closer unification with health, much more awareness and understanding, appreciation for the importance of work, because we know we can solve the global water crisis. It's just a matter of getting the right resources, just like moving the water resource allocations, like getting the money in the right place to solve the problem, because technically, absolutely, we know how to solve the problem, but it's getting the leaders to allocate the money and getting all these things to happen together. So those are the upsides and the silver linings that we see for the pandemic and COVID. And I just wanted to mention my colleague, Biswadeep Ghosh here he's our country director in India. He's amazing, and he's taking forward these programs that I mentioned very briefly and doing our great work in India. So we are colleagues and partners.
That was Eleanor Allen, Chief Executive Officer of Water for People. She gave a detailed presentation. We just talked about that, and also she reinforced our commitment, our idea that it is important to have a proper hygiene, health, and sanitation water ecosystem. Especially this pandemic has taught us that lesson, that we have to address those problems. Otherwise, we all are in danger. But we have to look for a better, brighter future. And I hope world will soon see that light of new normal, where we are all ensuring or doing our bit to attain the goal of SDG 2030. Thank you so much, Eleanor, for joining us from US and giving your perspective.
Thank you.
Talked about opportunities. Let's talk about challenges. And for that, we have with us Mr. V.R. Raman. Head Policy WaterAid India. We all know about WaterAid, the global organization working in the water sector for so many years, and as he's heading the policy sector in WaterAid. Mr. Raman, my question to you will be that name of this session is Effective Ways of Water Management Through Innovation, Policy, Implementation and International Collaboration. What are the challenges do you see in terms of policy implementation in India? Or is there any challenge at all?
All right, thank you, Souvik. And am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
So thanks, Eleanor, and also Mr. UP Singh for putting in the very important and the larger context of this specific issue. And this question is quite important. But rather than challenges, I will put up or I try to put up the challenges alongside their policy solutions in a way that how innovation can be a medium for ensuring water management, especially in the Indian context. So when we see the policy, so I was looking at what is the space for or what is the missing space for policy in water management context of India. So I think we have national level policy and we have state level policies and multiple departments that handle water management. While Jal Shakti is handling the drinking water and sanitation and also the Ganga rejuvenation, those areas, we have Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Forest, Ministry of, several number of ministries that are handling water management in different ways. And so at the national level, we have, somewhat we have a clarity about where to go. At the state level, the clarity translates into constraints, wherein the state governments are realizing, yes, we have to do this, but these are the kind of issues that we have in order to turn towards it. And for me, the actual landscape where the policies are getting translated are either districts or other cities. So I will be mainly focusing on those districts and cities wherein intent is very high, but actions are low, probably due to two reasons. One, actions are difficult because of the institutional and operational constraints. And the second reason, actions are difficult because of the, somewhat the ways of thinking need a lot of change, or ways of thinking need a lot of innovation. Eleanor was talking about community participation in this process. So I will start from some of those. One of the things Mr. UP Singh told about respect. Respect to water as one of the beginning point, whether it is Israel or where the other country examples were given about water management. So where does the the respect for water will emerge? Where will the respect for water emerge? Where will we as a community realize water as a scarce and important resource? Where will we start to manage this resource? This question needs to be, I think, understood before we list these challenges. So I think one of the major problems is that unless and until we communicate this, or we realize, the community realizes that this is a very important and scarce resource, unless we use this wisely, we are going to face a major problem. So that kind of a realization is not there at the community level and at the policy maker level and at level of different actors. This respect element is not going to build up. So I'll be mostly talking about how can we build up this respect element. So that is, what are the challenges in terms of building up this respect element and how to build up this respect element. One is, based on WaterAid's experience, wherein WaterAid is working in close to 50 districts across the country and in around 12 states, what we see that whenever we put the communities into water budgeting, so community level water budgeting, whenever it is happening, so it is not only about drinking water, wherein it can be drinking and domestic water can be at 50 to 75 liters per capita per day. But when you think about the other kinds of needs of water, and then realize that these are the kinds of needs that this specific community is having, and then see that against the availability of water, that gives a realization that we are in deficit or in surplus. and most of the cases things are deficit. So when you are talking, when you are realizing that we are in deficit, so in Fatehpur district or in large full district of Banda with Mr. Hiralal as the collector leading this process of Jal Chaupals, one of the important thing was that people and panchayats realized that they are running deficit of water. So otherwise water, the scarcity or the drought situation were, the attribution was towards upside, not necessarily towards one side. So once the water budgeting happens, this distribution of the responsibility, ourselves or the self will come into the responsibility of realization, and that leads to water planning. So once you start the water planning, that is where people start to realize equity around water, rights around water, and also how to distribute that rights and equity. So policy-wise, we need to see this. The challenge of non-realization by various actors, including community, as the first challenge, and water budgeting, community level water budgeting and water planning probably as the solution towards that, and policies at the district level to ensure that all panchayats are becoming water guardians. I'm using the word water guardian here, and they are through Gram Sabhas and other institutions, their water sanitation committees or whatsoever institutions. Those institutions need to be strengthened. Those institutions, if they are just for the sake of the name of an institution, they will not work. So you need to have most of the population groups representing in that institution, and they start to discuss water issues in a larger sense. So we need to also, one other important thing is that innovations cannot all in a sudden emerge. Innovations need a very critical footing on the past. So we need to build on the past. What were the kind of things, innovative ways that our former generations used to adopt for, and then what are the ways to innovate building on them, is a question that the communities have to, and officials have to, and policymakers have to, and decision makers have to continuously think about. So PRI, Panchayat Raj institutions, and the city, what you call the ULBs as the water guardians. How can we get that point done? And then how can we ensure that industries are thinking about reuse of water? Because reuse of water can be remain as a concept. It will remain as a concept, and it will remain as a challenge unless and until the action on reuse is clearly defined, and the pathways for that and strategies for that are clearly kind of suggested. So one of the things is that if we can get industries in the city to use the grey water and the storm water treated and used for their industrial purpose, they are not pulling into groundwater, they are not pulling into supplied water for the purpose of industry, then you can reduce the potable water or the clean water usage to a major extent. So the other thing is that agricultural reforms, how can we in a better way, sitting alongside farmers and community level, how can we get a way that water usage is thought through for the need, not for the greed? That specific kind of policy, how can we head towards that? And finally, it is also important that we have to map and measure our aquifers, what is their health and how to improve their health. And finally, we need to go to metering of drinking water supply. The Jal Jeevan mission is a very, very important measure, but unless and until at the household level we put this meter and ensure the responsibility of the user, that beyond a point usage is going to be unhealthy for our planet and our locality and our community. So the metering, sometimes we look at the cost of the meter, some 1,000 rupees or so per family is seen as a additional cost, and that budget constraint leads to specific issues of reduction of these kinds of equipment. But that 1,000 rupees is going to add a major value. So we can also think about low cost meters and all that, but that is going to add a major value in terms of regulated usage of water. And finally, 2 points which are important is, one is water quality monitoring continuously, because it's not only about managing the quantity, it is also about quality. So how to ensure quality is an important point that we need to think about. For that, innovation, one of the innovation, it's a big challenge as of now because we don't have institutions, district level labs or whatever to look at groundwater quality or the water that we are consuming, the quality of that. So see, in the pandemic era, what we've seen in the last 7 months is that the moment RC-PCR or other RT-PCR or other tests were evolved, all in a sudden across the country, hundreds and thousands of laboratories and the laboratory technicians were trained for using that kit and test the SARS-CoV virus. So this is, if you go to the ICMR website, you will see that the number of laboratories. So why cannot we use the pathological laboratory network across India as a kind of private partnership or whatever partnership we call it, as a new kind of kits and reagents and processes to look at various water quality issues. And if we can develop our pathological laboratories as water quality testing centers, probably the institutional vacuum around water quality can be addressed. And we need to develop technologies and thinking towards this. And community level surveillance of water quality, technology to use that, mobile technology, how can they report using mobile phones about water quality problems or water supply problems, those kinds of things. And new ways to expand the water testing and all that. So this infrastructure and institutional infrastructure, there should be innovative thinking and approaches to go for. And finally, we need to develop indicators, best indicators, cardinal indicators for water management and interoperability of data between various departments. Various departments are collecting data on water and water management, but this data is not talking to each other. So we have to present it separately. We cannot put them together because the denominators are different, the ways of looking are different. So how can we make a interoperable standard for data collection by various departments so that we can get a full picture of overall water management across various departments and sectors, and then see where are we facing challenges and how can we solve them. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Raman, Head Policy WaterAid India. I asked him about the challenges before us in the policy level and its implementation, and you've quite rightly talked about that. You have talked about various things. If I can take the crux of that, you touched upon a very important aspect of water budgeting at the community level, and making guardians at panchayat level and district level and municipal level, so that they take the ownership of effective water usage. And you also talked about metering of drinking water at last of your speech. Action on use, that is a much needed action to be taken upon. And at last, you talked about interoperability of data between departments. That's again a very important point. And also you touched upon the importance of leveraging technology and innovation for implementation of various water-related policies. We know Jal Shakti Ministry and Jal Jeevan Mission are the game-changing thing happening in India for last 5-6 years. There will be challenges because India is a vast country. Every state is like a big country. So, but we all have to work together to make those challenges, convert those challenges into opportunities. And I'm sure organization like yours and ministry with the right intent, and also people coming in the grassroots level to make water effective management a reality, I think we'll soon have a better time in terms of water usage and water effective use of water management in a country like India. Thank you so much, Mr. V. R. Raman, Head Policy WaterAid India. Thank you so much for joining us in the inaugural, and you joined us in the first edition as well. If I remember correctly, thanks for joining us in the second edition. And I request you and Eleanor from Water for People also to join us in the third edition in the month of February 2021, and also enlighten us with your vision and how various organizations can come together and join hands to make the difference. Let me also take this opportunity to thank our partners for this conference. Ministry of Jal Shakti and Namami Gange are the host partners. Ministry of Jal Shakti and National Water Mission are the host partners. Namami Gange are the supporting partners. And co-host partners, as Mr. Raman was rightly pointing out, the importance of districts. And if you see the agenda, in the next session, we'll have district ministers so that those best practices can be highlighted again, and what are the challenges and opportunities can be discussed again. So we have the Bemetara district administration from Chhattisgarh, Latur district administration from Maharashtra, Goalpar district administration from Assam, and Dantewar district administration from Chhattisgarh joining us as co-host partners, and their district ministers will be part of the next session. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session. But before we conclude the inaugural session, let me invite my colleague Sanghamitra Mohanty to deliver vote of thanks to our eminent speakers. Over to you, Sanghamitra.
Thank you, Souvik. I would like to appreciate your participation, Raman. As and when required, you are there always for APAC. And on behalf of my APAC team, Souvik, Gopi, Sudhir, and all the team members, I would like to thank you, UP Singh sir, for his constant support, and Ministry of Jal Shakti to give us the consent for another 2 more editions for this global event. And I would like to thank you, Eleanor, who has joined us from US, Biswadeep Ghosh, who is, Water for People Representative India Director in India, for joining also from Delhi. So looking forward for more such participations from your end, for your support as in when we need you. Thank you all, and waiting for our next session. Our panelists are already there in the backstage. G. Ashok sir is already waiting for the next session. So thank you so much. See you in the next edition, in the 3rd edition, where Netherlands will be our country partner. So see you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Raman.
Thank you so much, all our eminent speakers in the inaugural. We'll just take a short break and we'll come back with the next session, panel discussion on perspectives from districts on rainwater harvesting, groundwater management, rejuvenation of river and water bodies, challenges and opportunities, and scope of global partnerships. And for that, we'll have speakers from Government of India, from various district administrations, and also international organizations like Embassy of Netherlands, and also from the Australian Water Partnership. So see you there for the next session. We'll just take a short break and we'll be back in 20 minutes time with the next session of 2nd edition of APAC Global Water Management Conclave. Thank you so much for joining us in the inaugural.